Would you rather have a poor friend or a rich friend? That is literally the question I was asked a few nights ago at about 7:30 at night by my 8-year-old son. And I was literally coming in and out of the house, never saw it coming. We weren't having a discussion about this at all. I was bringing things in and out of the house. My son goes, "Dad, if you had a choice, would you rather have a friend who is a poor friend or a friend who's a rich friend?" And just for context, my son's really big on would you rathers right now, so that's where the format of the question came from. But where else the question came from, I couldn't tell you other than God. Now, when he asked me the question, again, I'm carrying things in and out of the house. I just looked at him and I said, I didn't know what to say. And if you know me, you know the next thing that came out of my mouth was, of course, a question. And I said, "Okay, Jack, well, I wouldn't decide whether to choose a friend based on whether they're rich and poor. Can you tell me something else about this person? Which of the people is more fun or funny?" And he said, "Dad, they're both just as fun or funny." I said, okay. So between the friend, the poor friend, and the rich friend, which one is the most trustworthy? Which one's a better listener? And he goes, "Dad, they're the same. The only difference between the poor friend and the rich friend is that they look different." And I said, "Look different? Why do they look different?" He said, "Well, because the poor friend doesn't have as much money, so his clothes aren't as nice." At this point, I'm feeling like my son is taller than I am. I said, "Buddy, this is an amazing question, and I'm really struggling to answer the question without knowing more." He looked at me, he didn't pause, and he said, "I choose the poor friend." And I said, "The poor friend, why?" And he said, "Because the poor friend doesn't have as many friends. People who are rich, people who have money, usually have more friends." I just stared at my son. My eyes started to water a little bit. I said, "Buddy, that's an amazing answer. You answered better than I did." And then I spent the next day or two processing what in the world just happened. And I thought to myself all kinds of things like, is that even true? Do people who are wealthy have more friends? Because I know a lot of people who are rich that have very few friends, and I know a lot of people who are poor that have a lot more friends. But I was like, I guess there is some truth to that. Where did my son learn that? Where did he learn what it says in Proverbs 19:6-7? Proverbs 19:6-7, which is, I'm pretty confident, is above my son's reading level at this point of his life, says this: "Many seek the favor of the generous, and everyone is a friend to a giver of gifts. If the poor hated, even by their kin, how much more are they shunned by their friends? When they call after him, they are not there." My 8-year-old son, who I don't think has read Proverbs yet, already knows it. Because the word is written on his heart, right? Then a little bit further down in Proverbs 19, verse 17, it says, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord and will be repaid in full." Kind to the poor. Now, those who know the word kind today, I think we throw the word kind around a lot. Think it means nice today. Biblically, it means way more than nice. Kind means generous. Whoever gives to the poor, whoever does something for the poor, lends to the Lord. And somehow my son gets it. The other thing that I've been processing for the last couple of days is his answer says so much about what he's looking for in a friend. My answer was wrong. I failed the test. When he asked me the question, I thought, well, tell me about this friend. What am I going to get out of this friend, right? Are they trustworthy? Are they funny? And my son wasn't looking for friendship based on what it did for him. He was looking for friendship on what he could do for them. He wants to be friends with kids who don't have a lot of friends. That's kindness. I had it backwards. And my hope and prayer for all of us is that we can all learn from an 8-year-old boy who has the Word of God written on his heart and take a moment to look for opportunities to be friends for the friendless. To those who might not have a lot, may we try to be friends with them and have an impact in their life, just like my son had on mine. God be with you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.